thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Hopefully, what I talk about today, you find interesting on some level. You walk away with even one thing from this. I've done my job today. I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey. Now, when I first was asked to do this, my first thought was, I don't want to be that old guy that just rambles and tells stories. I don't want to be that guy. I want to talk about why I did some of the things I did. Not so much the actual job or the company, or I don't want to tell stories about where I used to work. That's not what this is about. This is about me going back and reflecting on things and realizing that some of the things I did really caught me by surprise, and were way outside of my wheelhouse at the time. And I was not necessarily comfortable, I guess, quite a few times. You'll see this Sicura Networks. I started that, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago to help out a friend doing some side work. I don't really do anything with that right now. I'm retired, I guess. I have someone laughing at that. I don't normally dress in golf wear, but I am retired and I just came from golfing. So this is as good as it gets.
How many times have you retired?
How many times have I retired? Twice.
Twice. Okay.
Yeah, maybe 3 times if you count one other time I took a break, but twice.
Very nice.
If you could go to the next slide, everybody's going to be shocked at what comes up.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's me.
Did it.
That is me about 100 years ago. This is my first computer job. This was me coming off being an auto mechanic for 8 years. And no joke, the only reason I switched careers is because I was tired of being dirty all the time. I love cars. I still work on them. I race cars. I love them. But I didn't like being dirty. The computer field at the time, and I'm from Boston originally, so don't hold that against me either. The computer field at the time, this is no joke. If you were a warm body that walked into a company, you got hired. It was that desperate. Route 128 outside of Boston was like Silicon Valley. Computer companies were popping up everywhere. DEC, Honeywell, Wang Laboratories. If you've never heard that name, that was at one point a $2 billion company with 30,000 employees. And they went right down the toilet. One of the reasons I left that job, that was a job that people took with the intent of staying there until they died. That was one of those jobs. I started 6 years into it, started to see things that were happening that were not good. It was really obvious the business was very shaky. So I left this, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. I left this job when people thought I was insane to leave. Why would you leave? Why would you? Oh, where are you going? Anywhere but here. I'm out of here. And a couple of years after I left, they really did. It took a nosedive fast. Next slide.
For anyone that's a little younger,
Mike.
that's a
Mike.
for anyone that's a little younger, go look up the Simpsons episode about Wayne computers.
That's right. There is a Simpsons episode about that. Oh, I will point out one quick thing. Dr. An Wang, who started that company, held a patent for magnetic core memory, which IBM bought from him for $50,000, and he hated them after that. So, and he was a super guy. Met him a bunch of times. Okay, let me get on here. So, car mechanic, first job. That picture, I was hired second shift. I was given the title of language technician. Sounds incredible. I took workstations that were hooked up to mainframes, took the keyboard apart, took the EEPROMs out, and installed the correct keyboard and EEPROM for whatever country it was being shipped to. That was it. I did that on second shift. It was a miserable job, absolutely miserable. Stayed there for 6 years, went through, this is one thing we're going to talk about, took lots of classes. I do not have a college degree. Never went to college. I drove by a lot of colleges. I partied at a lot of colleges, Harvard, MIT, went to all those places. Didn't attend there. Nothing wrong with going to college. I have so much respect for people who have done it. It's not me. It didn't work for me. So again, worked my way up at Wang. Last job there was field engineering in Boston. Did that for a while. Went to another company, and then somewhere between here and here, I drove out to California. I left a really good job. Honestly, got sick of the winter. And if you're starting to see a pattern here, don't want to get my hands dirty, don't like being cold. I came out to California. I had no job out here. I had no family out here. I had nobody out here. Got a great apartment in OB. Could have spent the rest of my life down there, no problem at all. Eventually got hired at a really small startup here. Worked my way through that. Lots of jobs in here that I'm not going to get into. One that I'm going to talk about, and Dave and I just learned about this in the hallway. I worked at Cubic Corporation for 15 years here. Never thought I would be there that long. And I have a lot of people that say, you know, like, oh, why would you stay at a company for 15 years? I changed jobs 6 times in those 15 years. That place afforded the opportunity to grow. So it was a constant change of something different, moving up, doing something that, you know, I wanted to try or whatever, which is what got me over here. So started in IT, bunch of different jobs, but this is no joke. I started to really hate Windows. Every time we upgraded something or patched something and it broke and other things broke down the line from that or wherever, I started to notice that, like, gee, the network team doesn't seem to have a lot of these problems. Like, what is going on? And that's no joke. That is how I went from this to this. Got into networking, ended up in a great group of folks. Did some really cool stuff. And we got hacked. 2005. So I'm going back 20 years, 21 years. Got hacked by the Chinese. Had to go to a classified briefing at the FBI. Didn't know what was going on. Didn't have a clue. Didn't know why would the Chinese? What are they doing? What is this? And no joke, I could remember this like it was yesterday. I remember the VP of IT going, "Yeah, you guys seem to have a handle on this. Why don't you deal with it? Why don't you guys deal with this?" Okay, like, you network guys can, like, you know, make sure that they're walled off and they can't get around. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever. That's how I got into cyber. So that's, again, about 20 years ago or so. Next slide. Let me get over here. Again, I'm not the most organized person in the world. I don't plan well. I know those things. And there's some people here that I've worked with that are smiling. I never had a 1 or 3 year or 5 year plan. Definitely rolled with whatever was kind of going on. That right there, if you can stick with trusting yourself as you go through your career, believe me, it is the best thing you can do. Believe me. If you screw up, you own it. You own it. There's no finger pointing at other people. Really, truly follow your gut. This one here, when I worked at Cubic, I am not ex-military. Never been in the military. That company has 75% of the employees are ex-military. I learned so much there. You'll see on another slide, I ended up with a top secret clearance. I remember when I got that thinking there's nobody that grew up with me that would believe for a million years that I would have a top secret clearance. No way. Because of that, I got to see things and go places and do things that still blow my mind. So think about that. Think about different industries. Go outside of whatever you're comfortable with Again, in the defense industry, Cubic is in the business of training the military. They don't build weapons. My feeling was, I'm good with that. Let's be honest, wars and things are going to happen. I want to protect people. That's cool. That's a good thing. I got to travel again, places I never would have imagined. Classes, I was trying to figure this out. I don't know, somewhere around 50 or more over the years of just whatever was available to me. Again, and we'll see this in a little bit. I did go to UCSD Extension for 2 years, which is the closest I've come to college. Certifications. I did get certifications, but in my career, I got them as I needed them, or it was a requirement. If you're in the DoD world or DCSA and all the other acronyms that the government and the military loves to create, if you're in any of those, there are requirements sometimes for certain programs. You have to have a certification, which is wonderful because the company's going to pay for it. I'm a big proponent of SANS. SANS training is insanely expensive. It is also one of the best, hands down. I will argue that with anybody. But again, I never went and jumped out and said, you know, I'm going to go get a CISSP or a CISM or any of that. It was just, I do what I need to do and keep moving along. Just head down and kind of keep going. This is another one that I think is incredibly important. And we're all different. Thank God. We're all different. That picture of the person you saw at the beginning would have never, ever stood up here. Ever. I wouldn't even be in this room. I'd be out there someplace. I've changed. And a lot of that is I joined organizations that I wasn't even sure if it had anything to do with what I was doing. It was a chance to meet more people. It was a chance to get outside of stuff that I was used to and again, do something a little different. This is another one, and this didn't come till later in my career. Volunteering, I worked for a family, wealthy family that owned a lot of companies, and they owned the senior center in downtown San Diego that feeds seniors for free. It is an incredible place. The Gary and Mary West Senior Center. If you're ever downtown on 4th Avenue, you need to go see it because it's insane. I volunteered there to serve lunches to people and met unbelievable people who are almost homeless and they're our senior population. Met amazing people that again opens your mind a little bit. You know, helps this thing up here think a little bit better and network with people. It just, again, you're trying to get yourself a little bit outside of some comfort level. Me serving lunch to people, you know, sure, show me what to do, I'll do it. Let's go on to the next slide. Oh, sure. Okay, some of my certifications, just quickly. Anybody know what Banyan Vines is? The 3 older people. I do. That used to run the Marine Corps, Camp Pendleton. That was the network. That way back in the day was one hell of a networking system, better than anything that was around. Same thing with NetWare. When NetWare came out, and Network Directory Services and all that other wonderful stuff that at the time was so much better than Microsoft. Windows NT, Cisco certification, SANS, had those. HIPAA, because I got into the healthcare side with a company. We talked about that. Healthcare IT. That family that I worked for had a nonprofit healthcare institute. They still do. I was fascinated with that. I had never worked in that field before. And that's what led to this. Because I started to hear terms I'd never heard of. I'm an IT guy. I know IT, not healthcare. It's different animal. And HIPAA, ooh, if you're a security person, ooh, right? That's the worst. but I did a 2-year certificate program at UCSD for healthcare IT, did a capstone project. It was a blast. And I honestly thought at that point, my career would continue into healthcare. In fact, and I'm just remembering, we're down the street from AMN Healthcare, where I was director of cyber there for, I think, about 4 years. That's what led into getting that job. Now, AMN is not really a healthcare company. They are in nursing. I call it rental nursing. But it was still healthcare, working with Kaiser and all that. So again, kind of going back to what we talked about, there was that progression of things of like, again, with me going, I kind of like this. This is kind of cool. That 15 years as a defense contractor was way behind me at that point. I had done it. It's great. It's over. Let's move on to the next thing. So I really thought I was going to do more with that. I'm not sure. I know there was a little bit of burnout. There's a lot of people, especially in cyber, that will tell you the stress in cyber is insane. Really is. Be prepared for that.
Quick question.
You have a question?
Yeah, we got a question online.
So what is the HIPAA certification that you got? Do you remember?
It was some company they brought in at West Health to, we went through 3 days of training and received a certificate at the end of that. And it was going through the HIPAA rules and everything related to HIPAA. Again, in cyber and in networking, I tend to be a somewhat black and white thinker of things. And HIPAA, if you can become HIPAA compliant, good for you. It's just kind of all over the place. It's very great. I'd have to go back and look. I can find who the company was, but it was a HIPAA certification at the end of those 3 days that myself and the privacy officer went through, because we were handling 350,000 records for senior patients from Medicare. That we were, it was a big deal. And we wanted to make sure we were doing it the right way and weren't going to have any issues. So yeah, that's about the best I can answer on that. Okay, next slide. I have to wake Dave up over here. Okay, regrets. And Dave's dying to hear this one. I sent the slide deck over to him yesterday and he emailed me back right away. He's like, I wonder about the whole thing. This one right here, going back to what I talked about earlier, following your gut. I was at a small startup that became quite successful. Looked like things were going great. Unfortunately, ownership was not doing a very good job. I went out and interviewed with a private school here in, I don't like to give names, a private school in the La Jolla area for an incredible opportunity that I wish I took, because it was dumb of me to turn it down. But I was given the job, I gave my notice, and that startup convinced me with stock options and all kinds of stuff that, hey, you need to stay. And I thought, wow, if this works out, I'm done. I was a much younger person, like, wow, I could retire. You know, this is going to be great. It didn't go at all like it was supposed to, and I didn't follow my gut. That's one thing I still remember quite well. This one was way back before that ugly picture of me at Wang Laboratories. DCMA was an organization back in Boston. I went through a scholarship process that somebody talked me into. And again, I was working as a car mechanic. And I went to these interviews. It went on for months. I went to these interviews just like I'm standing in front of you guys right now. I just kind of walked in. In fact, I know I wore my mechanic's uniform a few times and took it as like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, as an interview for scholarship. That's great. Sure, fine. I got it. And when I got the scholarship, I literally sat there and went, I don't want this. I don't know why I did this. And I went to the gentleman that ran the program and told him that. And I still remember to this day him saying to me, I thought he was going to probably cut my head off. He said, "Good for you. You spoke up and you said what's on your mind." And he goes, "I can tell you really don't want to do this." And I said, I don't. And so it went someone else, which that's fantastic. I'm sure their career is doing well. But I did walk away from that. And looking back, yeah, I probably should have taken it. But I don't know. It all worked out fine. Wish I had joined the FBI. I worked with them a lot. Over the years in that group, and I will stand here, I will defend it to anything. Some of the best people, hands down, that I have ever worked with, period, in San Diego. It's an amazing office here in San Diego. I knew nothing about that when I was in high school. It was nothing, nobody ever talked about joining the FBI or something. Air Force, I'm mentoring someone right now that he's just trying to get into cyber and he's going to join the Air Force. That's a great opportunity if you don't mind going that route. Very technical. Again, working at Cubic, worked with, I'll be very careful with this. Worked with all the branches of the service. They're all amazing, but they're all different. And the Air Force was one that really blew me away with the caliber of people that I dealt with. So I always said that I think from a technical perspective, and especially cyber and all that, great thing. Okay, now the cult thing.
Please.
I had the luxury of working for a company that I became the director of IT. Again, I'm not naming the company. We were all at work one day and in came the FBI, the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, with raid jackets on, and they raided us. And we got shut down. And boy, did we make the news. Biggest Ponzi scheme in San Diego's history. That was a company I was working, I was director of IT.
Oh, no.
So that got shut down. A couple hundred people got laid off. 60 some odd million dollars disappeared. They brought in a court appointed receiver from LA. And for the next 6 months or so, myself and about 10 other people in accounting and IT stayed on to simply try to help him find the money that was gone by running through reports and digging through everything, which never worked out. Part of that, as it was getting shut down, was a career coach. I never knew those existed. And I went to this career coach in Mission Valley. I don't remember her name. She was a doctor, spent the day on computer doing all kinds of questions and profiles and all this stuff. At the end, she comes back and she said, "You're in the wrong business." What do you mean? You shouldn't be in IT. You have very outgoing personality. And she went through all this stuff. You should be in either sales or you'd be really good at if you had a cult. And I looked at her and I said, "Excuse me?" She goes, "No, you're that person that people listen to and will follow you wherever you go." Like, okay. And again, I just sort of took it as a compliment, I guess. But then my pea brain after that used to run through it all the time of, wow, if I started a cult, what would I call it? I came up with the alphabet cult and everybody would have a letter. Then of course we'd run out of letters and I'd have to figure out what I'm going to do after that. But that was kind of how I thought that through. I just always found that funny. She really threw that out there at me that she tried to convince me to leave IT. Really did. And I think back at the beginning, I like to fix things. That's what got me into what I do. I like to fix stuff. I don't always succeed at it, but I like to fix things. Everybody should have some motivation for what you're doing. Whether, I always ask people when I interview people for cyber positions, Why cyber? Why do you want to do this? This is a miserable job. The hours are crazy. You're gonna probably have a nervous breakdown at some point. Why do you want to do this? And I've heard some great stories, and I've also heard, well, the money's really good. Ooh, wrong answer for lots of reasons. But I stuck with what I did because, again, I really do like to fix stuff. In cyber, there's not a lot of fixing. It's risk management. We'll talk about that in a minute. Next slide, please. Roles in cybersecurity. This list is a mile long. This is just a few. The reason I put these up there, every one of these is a different personality type. Very, especially when you get into that one. That one and any of these are two very different people. And you really need to understand that. If you're going to go into cyber, and please go to the SANS website, because no one does it better. They show you the different roles, and there's dozens and dozens of roles. They show you the roles, and you can click on it and you can see everything that's involved from a class perspective, what you need to know. And when you look at that, pay attention to yourself. Again, this thing in here, pay attention. And if you see something, you go, that sounds cool. Little light goes up, make a little checkbox right there. Because every one of these is very different. Cyber is risk management. It spreads into everything. I worked way back at an insurance company. Insurance companies have been doing risk management way before it became cool. And they've been doing data lakes way before those happened too. So they're really good at it. Insurance companies are really good at pulling data together. Some of it is stuff you wouldn't want to know about. Just trust me, they pull stuff from everywhere. And they look and they figure out risk. That's what they're good at. That's what cyber is. Every one of these, even an analyst, if I'm sitting in front of a computer and I'm monitoring tools and I'm watching for bad guys, what are we doing? It's risk. I'm monitoring risk. I'm looking for things that don't look right and trying to do something with that. Every one of these roles, again, are all very different. If you want to go this route, and I'm going to mention someone that I hired at my last job. This person wanted to eventually become a CISO. And then we went through a very serious security incident. And she was there through the entire thing. And about 2 weeks after that security incident, she said, I don't want to be a CISO. And I laughed. I said, no, you she goes, no, I don't. I watched you and I saw what you had to deal with, and I don't want to do it. And I said, you know what? Good for you. That's a smart move. Because if you really don't want to do it, then you're not going to be good at it. You need to go in another direction. There is nothing wrong. And it bothers me so much when people put down a job role or say like, oh, you're still doing that. What do you mean you're still doing that? That means you're good at it. Hopefully you're good at it. You're not just sitting there coming in every day. Hopefully you're really good at it. If you want to be the best security analyst the world has ever seen, wow, that's fantastic. Good for you. You don't have to keep moving up all the time. I guess looking back, I never looked at it as moving up. I just looked at it as moving. It was in my mind constantly moving. I'm moving along and doing something else. I know I come from a generation that a lot of people in my generation were, you get a job out of college, you stay there for 40 years, you collect a pension and all that stuff. It was just not me. I do get a pension for one of the companies I worked at. I think that's hilarious. I didn't even know I had it, to be honest with you. But so management in cyber is more politically motivated than technically motivated, for the most part. You have to be very good at selling stuff to people. If you're gonna be a CISO someday, or you wanna get in that direction, you'd be really, really good at selling stuff to people. I can identify risk, I can classify risk, and then I have to go to somebody that has the money to say, I need $6 million to fix this list. And then you're gonna go, you can have a third of that. Okay, now I have to go back to the list and I have to reclass and say, we can pay for this and this and this and this. Does that work? And on and on and on. It becomes a role. Yes, you need to know technical stuff. Yes, you need to understand how things work. But to me, the frustrating part is it really becomes more of that, more of just fighting a battle all the time that you lose a lot. One thing I want to put out there to anybody in cyber or thinking of getting into cyber, and I went through it, and I had a lot of people working for me that went through it. You are going to get told no a lot. You can be so technical and so right, and go to your boss or whoever and say, we need to buy this, we have to have it, it's going to do this. You're 100% right. Chance of it happening, not so good. And when it doesn't happen, don't get upset. I did it myself. More technical people that just get so upset. You know, they have to, they don't understand. Yeah, they do. And at the end of the day, it's profit. It's the company is in business to make money. Let's be honest. All of us know that deep down. So yeah, it'd be great if I had 100% win all the time. It's hard in cyber because when you go to a board or anybody in charge, you cannot guarantee 100% that nothing's going to happen. And they don't want to hear that. They want to hear that, like, we're safe, nothing's ever going to happen. Well, then unplug the internet and we'll try to figure it out from there. That's a good start. So again, some great roles in cyber. All of these, again, very different personality types, very different certifications. Look them up, go to SANS. Next slide, please. As we wind this down. I think this is the most, in my mind, my opinion, one of the most important things right here. Don't focus all technical all the time. Focus on yourself and learn by doing some of these things or taking classes. I took classes in project management because I'm not very organized. I'm not a project manager. How the hell does this work? I'll go take some classes. And I did. And I sat in a classroom full of project manager people that spoke lingo I didn't understand. But I learned how that works because as I rose up in rank or whatever you want to call it, it helped me work with the PMOs that I worked with because I understood how they think and how things work. So again, public speaking, had someone work for me that he was not somebody to get up in front of anybody. And I said, why don't you go to Toastmasters? I've heard that's really good. And he did. And it was very uncomfortable for him. I can tell you flat out, the poor guy would sweat. But again, push yourself a little bit. Business awareness, risk management. Understand the business side of things. When you work for a company, what do? How do they do what they do? That's important, not just what they do. Oh, we build this widget. Great. How do you do that? What's that look like? How do all the pieces work together? Understand it. This one, over the years, I've worked, I think all of us have, worked with somebody that you just want to go, how do you get out of the house in the morning? How do you dress yourself? Honestly. Some folks, their mind just works in a very different way. And you have to roll with that. But if you find yourself struggling with problem solving and troubleshooting, do something about it. Again, there's classes you can take that help with that and help you get through it. Understanding teamwork and what that really looks like. That's just something you kind of have to work on, as you go. Interview skills. I could write a book about bad interviews. And it's so frustrating when you're in management and you interview someone and they just tank. And the way I am, I want to sit with them after and go, could I give you some pointers here? I couldn't do that because you work for a company and there's lawyers and all that stuff. So interview skills, sharpen your interview skills, have questions, have good questions, ask. So if you hire me, what's the first project you're going to put me on? What does that look like? How long is that going to be? When that project concludes, what do you think the next project might be that I'm going to be part of? Have questions that show you're actually interested in further down the road. I've had people that, I'm only going to be here for a year. I had someone say that once. I really only planning on being here for about a year. Really? That's fantastic, because it's going to take you 3 months to even get the lay of the land. It's going to take you another 3 months before you're probably going to be somewhat productive. Now we're halfway through the time you're here. What am I supposed to do with that? Because again, it comes down to money and profit and all that wonderful stuff. Yeah, I want to send you to class. I want to get training and certifications. But if you're only going to give me a year of your time, why? I'm not going to do that. So again, if you can ask the question, if you don't get the job, ask why. You probably aren't going to get the honest answer, because again, HR and legal kind of comes in. But it's just really important to have the interview skills. I think out of everything out there, it really is learning about yourself, again, being honest about who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then trying to do something with that. You want to change it, change it. If you don't. It's that you have that choice. But I think the soft skills on IT and cyber, especially cyber, these really do come into play a lot. It's not I wish there could be some certification. Well, there are certifications in project management, but some of these others, I wish there could be certs for that you could guide people by. Next slide, please. Work on you, assess personal challenges, attend lectures. Who went to see the Dalai Lama in 2012 at UCSD? Nope. One guy, one person.
Nice.
The Dalai Lama was here.
Wow.
OMG.
Yeah.
I went. I know who he is. I'm not, I don't know, a follower or whatever you want to call it. I went, the Dalai Lama. Wow. How cool to see a person that's on the world stage coming to San Diego. So lectures, anything, just pick something and go and enjoy it for whatever it is, because it might open your mind up to something else, or you may think of something else. These two here, this is me and this is me. I listen when people talk. I do not try to have an answer in my head as you're talking, waiting for you to stop so I can start talking. That's so important. Human nature is that when someone's talking to you, you're kind of hearing them, but you've already started to think of what I'm going to say, and you're over here and they're still talking. You're not listening. And it's so important to actually pay attention. Being humble, in the CISO world, and as you get higher up in organizations, there are some amazing egos that you will come across. Amazing. And some of them, they can back it up, and some of them can't. And you just have to go with that. But I always try to approach it as, I don't know everything. I have done this. I have worked for 50 years. I don't even know what to do with that. I worked for 50 years. Do I know everything? No, of course not. Technical? No, there's always something to learn. Could I go be a CISO again? Yeah. But again, right now, I'm in a place where I'm very happy with things. I'm happy with how things are going. So, but try to hold on to that. And then the last thing, this actually does go back to the Dalai Lama. This was someone that I was turned on to by a person, a psychiatrist. She's an amazing person. She's long retired now. Wherever you go, there you are. That's a book by John Kabat-Zinn, who teaches at UMass Medical Center back in Worcester, Massachusetts. He teaches about being in the present, and he does it with cancer patients. And over the years, started it in 1979, I think, or 76, something like that. Over the years, has had an amazing success with that. This right here, in the last 7 or 8 years of my career, helped me the most. Being present. I am in a room with a group of people that all seem like very nice people, and I'm having a nice time, and there's food over there, and that's it. My mind is not going, oh, after I leave here, I better go down there. I'm going to go to the market. I have to go pick up some stuff. Really? Who says that's going to happen? Nobody. When you start to actually think that way, it's amazing what starts to happen for your career and your life. And IT and cyber especially are very counterproductive to that. You're constantly putting out fires, you're running in 16 different directions, and your mind starts to go all over the place because it has to. But when you can start to do that, it really starts to pull things together and starts to calm you down and get you in a place where things feel better. Trust me. I don't want to preach. That's not what that's about. But again, this is what got me where I am. Hopefully, some of this has been helpful. Hopefully something came out that you go, yeah, maybe I'll give that a shot. Maybe I'll go to a lecture or whatever. Last slide, I believe. I think we're on the last.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to add that to what you're saying there. That transcends beyond work. That works into all relationships that we have.
Yeah.
You know, with our family, with generational, whether we're mentoring or whatever. I couldn't agree with you more.
I think, like I said, with me, especially when I got into cyber and last 5 or 6 years of cyber, again, there's a lot of stress. It really is tough. So it's tough to go to sleep at night. Very tough. When your mind starts to go, you're in the past, you're in the future, you're everywhere but here. That's the funny part about the human mind. It wants to go, it takes you all over the place.
Yeah.
And when it does that, you get worked up. You physically get worked up. Things in the past, they're done. Can't change them. You learn from them, but you can't change them. In the future, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't figured out how to know what's going to happen in that direction. So why would I worry about it? I have no idea. You know, I know what I'm going to do this afternoon. I'm not really thinking about it until I get out in the car, and then it'll be, you know, where am I headed to next?
Sure.
That's it. It helps. It really did. So,
No, thank you for sharing that as much as anything.
thank you guys very much. I don't know if anybody has. I might start a cult now that we've done this. I think start like a cult of retirement. Does anybody have any questions? It's somebody in the back there.
Call leader here. You mentioned earlier when someone was telling you about, hey, you should get out at night, a sales engineer or a call leader.
Yeah.
I'm getting the same thing, but just for some people here. How did you remind yourself that you're gonna be good at just a technical aspect, very abstract, and stay on course with that?
Okay, no, that's a really good question. My mindset at the time was that I was doing what I wanted to be doing. I still was very happy in IT. again, I'm a fix-it person. I felt like, yeah, I like what I'm doing. Sales? Ooh. I couldn't possibly go in that direction. And there's nothing that, I'm not putting salespeople down, but it was not something that I knew I wanted to do. And again, take the criticism with how it's meant. If somebody else is saying, hey, I've recognized this in you, and you can go, thank you, and thank you very much. And I'm gonna put that here in my back pocket, and I'll just kind of carry it with me as I go do what I'm doing. Maybe at some point, maybe you do something else with that. There were times in my career, especially as I met more and more salespeople, it's like, they seem to be doing better than I'm doing. They seem to be making a lot of money. But it's not about the money. It shouldn't be about the money. But that's what I did with it. I mean, I just kind of held on to it. I, again, found it kind of funny. The whole cult leader thing. Yeah, just hold on to it and keep doing what you feel that you want to do. And there was one person here in the back first, Emily.
Can I respond to that as well?
Sure.
I was just gonna say, hear them out though. Both make sure you're open to new options, new ideas, but totally agree with Gary. If it doesn't feel right, doesn't sit with you well,
Yeah.
don't do it and don't ever take something just for the money.
Yeah,
Never worth it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Money's nice though, I mean, I'll take it.
Okay, we have a gentleman in the back.
So, this is more of like a transition question, right?
Okay,
Because cybersecurity is very vast. What are the roles, in your opinion, that you think would help someone transition into like, I'd say like more like a management side of things? So let's say, let's say you're an architect or like engineer or that kind of, those kind of roles. Cause I
Right.
feel like it would be a hybrid for someone who is, let's say, an analyst.
no, that's
Transition into like a role of being like a CISO. And this kind of like a two-part question. And when you're in all those different roles, do you see it's helpful for someone to jump between roles and then become like a CISO, or would you say just stick to one part and then just go full on into that? Because I guess
very good question. I didn't cover that because we didn't have a lot of time, but yes. So in those roles in cyber, usually a security analyst is kind of an entry level role. You start as an analyst. A lot of SOC providers will hire an analyst out of school, and you kind of work your way through. Usually, that architect position, because once you're into becoming a security architect, you become very technical. You have worked with a team. You've worked your way through a lot of the different parts and pieces of cyber. And usually from an architect, you can get into management. Because again, you've handled a lot of stuff. In fact, I know at the beginning when they mentioned they have a manager role here, that's usually, and this hasn't been around for a long time. It used to be like a team lead position. You would go from being an engineering to a team lead and then into being a manager or a supervisor, kind of working your way up from there. One of the things I don't think maybe I did, I talked about networking. To me, networking was the biggest help getting into cyber. You have to understand server and cloud and all the other wonderful parts and pieces, but the networking background helped me the most getting into cyber. And a lot of the people in cyber that I've worked with that are really strong at it had a very strong networking background. They came from that world. So yeah, to get up into management, definitely that, I always say that architect role is usually the place that kind of gives you that jump up into manager. And again, the architect kind of starts to lead the team. The team feeds into that architect role. That architect has to take everything and put it all together and create things from that. Getting up into a CISO role, that's something that just takes time. And again, going through manager, director, it just takes some time. and networking with people. That's the biggest thing. I can tell you in San Diego, excuse me, Dave and I were talking about this. This is a very close community here of a lot of very good people that will do anything they can to help each other out. There's a lot of good organizations locally. There's Emily helped me, the CISO Roundtable.
Oh, yeah.
There's a CISO Roundtable group here in San Diego that every once in a while has events where they have non-CISO people are invited. Come in and talk with them, meet with them, and I can tell you it's every CISO in this city, from the city CISO to Qualcomm to everybody else goes to that. So networking with those kind of people helps, is get your face out there in front of them, they get to know you, and you'll learn a lot, because again, you might find at some point you don't want to do that. As you move through those other roles, you may find at some point, like, I want nothing to do with this. Or you may, it works either way.
We have a question online, which is kind of similar to that, and that is from Alexandra. And she's asking, how do you bridge the gap between being a student and getting into cyber?
I wish I had an answer for that. I've given a lot of talks at San Diego State, other schools to students. Internships are the best point of entry usually for that. Not every company does the internship thing. Some do, some don't. A lot of, and I'm going to go back to the defense contractor segment, Lockheed Martin has a huge internship program. That's how they get a lot of their engineers. That's a great thing to look into. If you've never thought about getting into that space, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, Raytheon, Cubic, all those, is a hell of a starting point for a lot of folks. Internships are the biggest thing. We had internships when I was at Callaway. We'd bring somebody in, you're assigned a project for the summer while you're here, you complete that project, and then at the end of it, you get to present on it to all the other interns, and all the interns do the same thing from different departments. That's a strong internship program. I've also been at places where they did internships and it was, go get me that sandwich over there. Could you go take care of this? If you're in one of those, walk away. Walk away. They're just using you as a body at that point. So yeah, I wish companies had a more open mind about hiring people without the necessary experience sometimes, or the certifications or whatever. Unfortunately, they kind of hold on to that. That's a mindset that needs to change. Anyone else?
I would like to add on to that, someone that's jumped from accounting to cybersecurity and needed my foot in the door with any kind of cybersecurity job. Sharp Healthcare has an incredible internship. Got an internship program. And then I would counter against the defense industries. A lot of times they want ex-military.
Yeah.
So the military is never a shortage of personnel, so need to get in there first for a couple of years. That's also one gauge thing. And that would be my piece of advice as someone that's made the crossover.
Yeah, I completely agree with the military or ex-military comment. Yeah, they do. They look for a lot of ex-military. There's a mindset that kind of helps them out. But again, it's always worth giving it a shot. So, in this area, the biotech and the healthcare side, some great Scripps, Sharp, Kaiser, all of those are big entities here in San Diego. Unfortunately, being in San Diego and being so close to LA, we don't have the big HQs and things that LA has. I've done a lot of work with people up there. It's a very different mentality. They don't have the close-knit community. They have some amazing CISOs and talent up there, but they do not have that close-knit community that we have down here. That's why I said it's super important to get in those organizations and go. I know at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do sometimes is go to an event someplace and hang out with a bunch of people you don't know. Try it. Just push yourself a couple times, and eventually you start to see some benefit. You might meet somebody that helps you out. at some point. I went to one, got invited to, it was a bunch of hacker groups and different groups here in San Diego. I went because I just wanted to see what it looks like right now. And it gave me some hope. Gave me hope because there's some incredibly passionate people doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to love everything that you share, but kind of to support of your question. In addition to what Ryan and Gary have shared, mentorship can be a huge opportunity as well. If you think that there's something that we want to go after career-wise, there are people that are doing it that can help mentor you. And there's different opportunities to find that. It can be anything from reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn and just finding one that has the time and the openness. I know it's Alex and I have been spending Vanessa and I have been spending a lot of time trying to spin up a mentorship program within just our chapter to try and help people. So if you have any questions, we want to talk about it, but that's another opportunity or angle I would encourage anybody curious to look into as well.
And thank you for mentioning that. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, do it through LinkedIn. I'm not big on social media. That comes from the defense industry when I was working there because I couldn't have anything. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, and if I can help out, I'm more than happy to help. I mentioned there's a gentleman that I'm mentoring right now. The event that I went to, I brought him with me so he could meet people. And while we were there, we met someone that is now actually looking at giving him an internship. That wasn't going to happen. So again, you never know. You might go and nothing happens. Don't, pick yourself up and keep moving.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, it just is a very awesome, unique dynamic how close and supportive the San Diego community is. If we were to be doing this in another region, it's a very different dynamic. So it's just something positive that we do have here for each other.
I'm going to do one more quote. InfraGard. If you've never heard of InfraGard, that's an FBI organization. They started 30 years ago. It's free. It is we have the second biggest chapter in the country behind Washington, D.C. Go sign up, go to InfraGard, just sign up. Takes them 3 to 6 months to vet you to make sure you're not a terrorist or from another planet or whatever. But again, you get to go to these get-togethers and you are going to have the opportunity to meet some incredible people. It started as a defense contractor group that I was part of a long time ago, but it went way beyond that. And it's the FBI's way of trying to work with the private sector and have a two-way communication to understand what the heck is going on most of the time in the cyber world. And again, you get to meet some incredible people on the FBI side. I don't remember who was the person now. The two people that I knew both retired, but yeah, InfraGard. Go do that. It's free. Never do it. Never do it. Yeah.
Cool. Do we have another question?
One second.
What are other networking events in cyber in San Diego, you say, besides this one?
There's a lot. B-Sides just happened here in San Diego. B-Sides is a good one.
Also, can you describe this is my first ISACA, how are you saying?
ISACA.
You got it, yeah.
How would you describe what you guys do?
I can take that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar with ISACA, our goal is to first I'm using this online here. Our goal is so people can get free resources and get connected. So we have free training, we have free sandwiches, which brings people in free training. most of our things are available online, most of our events, we have some networking fixers, which happen quarterly. There's a few conferences come in, which we have presence on, and there's lots and lots of free training online.
San Diego based?
San Diego based, the chapters, there's something like 170 chapters throughout the world.
Yeah, ISACA is an international organization, so there's 180,000-ish members worldwide. But, and then there's a lot of chapters in different cities, so we volunteer to serve for the San Diego chapter. Yeah, if you go to our website is ISACA-SD.org. And if you go there, you'll see the different events that we strive to make available that at no cost. There's also, but the reality is we're but one of 10 quality organizations that have a local chapter here, seriously. And probably the best way to kind of see who's all available, if you go to our website, you'll see once a quarter there's a cybersecurity social mixer that all the chapters get together. It's at Alesmith Brewery up in Miramar. Yeah, you know, and it's just different members from the different groups and chapters that all kind of get together. Because what'll happen is like we'll work to put together an event like this. And so it kind of has us doing this. Each chapter does that, and it prevents the chip. Those events are designed to help kind of break down that wall between chapters and get different people to know different things. And different chapters focus on different things. We're a little more governance, GRC related. You'll find some that are more hacker centric, or more technical other ways.
Look on Meetup also, because on Meetup, you'll find a lot of the events that are going on, and like the one that you guys just had at Alesmith. You know, there's a lot of, I can't remember them all, there's so many. There's a lot of local groups, especially on the hacker side, white hat hackers and folks that are in that there's so many different groups. They all have different meetups, you know, usually once a month. Again, just depends on what it is you're looking for or what you're interested in.
The CISO like roundtable thing that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, you'll probably see it on LinkedIn. They don't do a very good job of advertising it. I wish they did a better job with that, but they don't. Only up until a few years ago did they even invite anybody outside of the group. It became kind of a weird little secretive thing for a while.
Well, I'm assuming you're invited.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of it. I'm on the mailing list, and every time I tell them to take me off the mailing list, they don't. And again, I'm happy. I'm fine with it. It's all good. But yeah, you can look it up on I know it's on LinkedIn, and I think they might have some other stuff up there. I'm not sure right now. But yeah, Meetup is good. You'll find a lot of the organizations. I stopped talking on the microphone. Sorry about that.
We're not getting complaints.
Okay, that means they're not listening. Yeah, there's a lot of small local organizations that you could definitely be part of. I've never seen an organization tell somebody when they show up that you can't be here. Even some of the closed ones, if somebody shows up, most people will be like, hey, you showed up? Good, come on in. More than happy to have you here. The one exception might be the CISO Rock Table group. They tend to really hold that group very tight.
Well, who abide by the Chatham House rule? So what
Yes.
ends up getting discussed in there
Yeah,
is perceived or treated more You'll find organizations or other groups like us where this is pretty open, meeting
Right.
certain people here for the first time, things along those lines, very inclusive that way. And most of those chapters most of the chapters are that way. The CISO roundtable, essentially Chatham House rule says what gets said in there stays in there. You can say what happened, but you can't say who shared it or who it happened to. So when you are attending those on the regular cadence, There's more confidentiality in what gets said. So I think that's a little bit more of the difference there.
Thank you for pointing that out. It's one of the only ones that I know of that doesn't even allow a vendor to sponsor it.
Yeah,
That shocked me because most all of the others look to vendors, like, hey, we need sandwiches. Can you guys supply sandwiches and we'll put your sign up and you can advertise yourself. CISA Roundtable, they'll let a vendor buy stuff, but you can't be there and you can't put up a sign. Most vendors say no to that. They want recognition. So it works for that group because of the people that are in that group. It works for them. But again, a few years ago, it came about of like, why aren't we inviting the students once in a while? We're over here talking about it. Why aren't we inviting people in? Let them come in and meet everybody. And okay, you don't have to talk about what's going on or reveal a secret or whatever. But again, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then further down the road, if I can help with something, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm staying on the email list for the CISA Roundtable, so I have an opportunity to push that button again, which now the more I'm talking about it, I'm going to do that. Thank you for bringing that up.
I think we're at time.
We're probably, yeah.
So thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you guys very much.